Hi, this is the Experiential Learning Hub at Oregon State University. We worked with Dr. Rachel Jones from OSU to build a centralized hub for experiential learning opportunities across OSU, including things like study abroad, undergraduate research, field courses, and much more. This project is driven by OSU's strategic goal that every student engage with experiential learning. Research shows that experiential learning improves student outcomes like graduation rates, student retention, and academic success. The main part of our site is here at the Browse Opportunities page, where students can search for topics they're interested in, filter by various parameters, and then find something that suits them. Once they have found the right opportunity, they can click here to learn more information, including the contact information of the person running it, so that they can get in touch, learn more, and sign up. Our page also has a showcase with statistics about the opportunities that are posted right now and student stories from students who have participated in other experiential learning in the past. We also have a student resources page with links to useful resources across the OSU website, contact us page, and an about page with more information about how this website was built using experiential learning itself. Our site also has an admin and faculty side where faculty can log in with their OSU single sign-on and create new opportunities themselves. A site admin approves all of these opportunities here.
Hi all, I'm Sinmay, and this is my portion of the capstone project development. I worked on the browse experience wireframe, the add edit experience wireframe, the resource page, homepage, browse experience bar, and page and the nav bar. So the technologies used were MySQL, SQL Alchemy, Alembic, Python, HTML, CSS, TypeScript, React, and Balsamic. A lot of these are because they were existing technologies, but also these are very popular technologies that several of us were familiar with, specifically React and Python and MySQL. Balsamic was used for the wireframing. So for development, these were my development steps. So the wireframes are the browse experience wireframe and the add edit experience wireframe. And then of course I worked on the home page to match the approved wireframing. The nav bar, so no dead links, and then includes the new pages that were added to the website. And then the student resources page with the links provided by Dr. Jones, the things that she thought were should be included in resources. And then, of course, also the browse experience. So if an image exists in the database, there would be an image. Otherwise, there'd be this just like a placeholder of no image. And then specifically when creating or editing an opportunity, I added the like upload image, and then there is a function in the backend that will automatically resize the image to not overwhelm the database with the super large images. Um, and then, so during the development plan, I mostly stuck to the original development plan, but not exactly in that order. And then some portions were reassigned to other group members, such as the about page, the contact page. Um, and the resource page was a new requirement that was introduced and I implemented. And then some things ended up taking a little longer, specifically the browse experience. So I did not get around to completing the web accessibility compliance check, which was part of the original plan. I did find it challenging that the web app already existed and it wasn't quite set up like what I was used to from my classes, and had some technologies that I had never used before. So figuring out the existing app before I could start development was pretty challenging, although also I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot about infrastructure and database setup from this project. And then, of course, I also learned about working with a client. Dr. Jones was a great client, but this was definitely not something I had done in any of my other classes before. And that's it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emily. For this project, the main component that I worked on was the showcase page. So I developed the front and most of the back end features for the showcase page. The first part of my development plan was to use React.js to create components for the metric cards, graphs, and the map that are displayed on the showcase page. The metrics cards show the total opportunities available and the students participating annually, and then we have a bar chart that shows the number of opportunities by term, and then a pie chart that shows the type of opportunities available. I chose to use recharts for the bar chart and pie chart because recharts can be easily integrated into an existing React project, and it was well suited for the types of graphs we wanted to display. Next, I used React Leaflet to create the experience map because this library can also be integrated into an existing React project seamlessly. It allowed me to use geographic locations to show pins of opportunities currently being offered. Leaflet also has some good features that allow the user to zoom in and out and pan over different parts of the map. The last feature I implemented for the showcase page was the ability to hide metrics cards and the map if no data is present to display. I also redesigned the appearance of the student story cards to match the wireframe design we agreed on with Dr. Jones. Fortunately, in the last few days of the term, we got the Microsoft single sign-on working. In the beginning of the term, I assisted in setting up the Microsoft single sign-on. The previous team had it working, but because we had to redeploy the app, we had to submit a ticket to University IT to add a new redirect URI. It took a fair amount of research for me to understand how the application and Microsoft Entra ID use the environment variables to authenticate users. Overall, my actual development plan aligned well with what I actually did. I think my biggest challenge was learning about Microsoft Entra ID because that was completely new to me, but it was fun to learn how the client ID, secrets, and tenant IDs are used by Microsoft Entra ID service to identify an organization and the application and authenticate users.
Hi, I'm Lauren. My role for this project was to build some of the wireframes, implement the keyword search, the record participants page, and I built the front end for the about and contact pages. The technologies I used were MySQL, SQL Alchemy, Alembic, Python, HTML, CSS, TypeScript, React, WordNet, and Balsamic. Most of these were already implemented in the project that was passed off from the other teams. I added in WordNet, which is a Python library to allow for a synonym lookup. So my development steps were to first I designed the contact and about page wireframes. So that's what they looked like. We added in information about the input from the different teams that worked on the project and a contact page. And then I also built this mock-up of the record participants page, which was really important because it allowed us to find out that we can't actually look up names like this for OSU. So that changed our plan a little bit. Next, I implemented an improved keyword search for our search page. We noticed that, for example, if you typed in ocean, you wouldn't find the marine experiment station, but now that works just fine. Next, I built the front end for the contact page and about page that I wireframed. And then I got the record participants page working. So if you own the experience, you can go in and add a list of participants, and they show up like that. Data will be used in the future for OSU to record information about who participated and the success of their experiential learning projects. Finally, I just added some additional filter options and some tiny improvements that were in response to the usability testing feedback that we got. For my plan, I mostly stuck to the original plan with just some additions, so some parts of this ended up going a little bit faster than I anticipated, so I was able to help build some of the front end pages that I hadn't originally planned on. I think the biggest challenge for me was that we were starting with a functional website that others had built, and just the amount of code that we started with was kind of overwhelming just to read and learn and understand all of that. Also, some of it, like the front end, was mostly in TypeScript, which is a language I hadn't used before. So I really had to get up to speed on that. From this project, I think I've learned a lot in general and a lot about website infrastructure and creating good modular code, both just from the code that we were given and from the great work that my teammates did. I'm also feeling a lot more confident with using GitHub and the processes that make programming together on a project work well.
Hi, my name is Kyle Davis, and my focus this term was on wireframing, database schema changes, Kanban setup, and as a usability testing lead. So I started by designing wireframes this term for the homepage and showcase page, which you can see here. These two, which have since been implemented by the team. And then this led to a Kanban board setup for our team, and then I researched our existing database schema to figure out what we needed to support a new showcase page. That led me to add location, latitude, and longitude fields to the experience table and build a geocoding service, which calls an API. So now when a faculty member enters a location for an experience, that service automatically calculates the coordinates, and that powers the interactive showcase page, which Emily has implemented. As far as the usability test, this was sent out this term as well, and that was through Google Forms, and this was a great success. We got lots of responses. There were, I believe, 15 participants, and we have since taken that information to make improvements, which has been a huge help. The biggest challenge for me this term was probably timing, and timing specifically for the usability study. Within an 8-week timeline, writing and conducting and gathering and implementing those changes along with everything else was quite a challenge, but luckily got everything done. And something I've learned is how to design, run, and process a usability test, especially against a hard deadline, which has been a great learning moment, and I'm very thankful for it.
This is Gabe. The sections I worked on were the AI chatbot, role-based access control, database, and infrastructure. First, I recreated the Azure environment. I recreated the container app, the SQL database, the container registry, and OpenAI resources. Then I stabilized the database and deployment. I built out some commands to build images, publish them to ACR, migrate the database, and deploy the container app. Then I migrated the chatbot from Gemini to Azure OpenAI. I also implemented role-based access control. This established clear access levels for each user role. I also added the opportunity to approve a workflow. This replaced permanent deletion with archiving, added pending submission screens and alerts, and added administrator approval of faculty submissions. These are the technologies used. These were the technologies used by the previous team, and it's mostly Python, SQL, and React. The development process involved recreating the Azure environment, stabilizing the local development environment, and improving the deployment workflow, migrating the chatbot, and then working on the backend and front end for role-based access. The original plan involved restoring and improving the Gemini chatbot, preparing the application for production, and security testing. And this plan had to change the backend of the chatbot from Gemini to Azure OpenAI, implementing access control, and stabilizing the development environment. One of the challenges was picking up with the previous environment. The database was unreliable and local development was difficult. Recreating Azure resources and connecting them to the existing code base, and competing priorities. What I learned was that a reliable setup was important and that development plans must adapt as technical dependencies and project priorities change.
This term marked the final phase of a 3-term effort to build the OSU Experiential Learning Hub. We focused on refining the platform's existing foundation, stabilizing what has already been built, and getting it closer to production ready. A few things remain before deployment, and those include finalizing authentication and student login with the UIT, building contact page backend, completing an accessibility review, and further improvements on what we've done for mobile responsiveness, and finally analytics collection. The platform itself is in solid shape. The database foundation is sound. The core features have been tested with real students and faculty, and their feedback has already been reflected in the design and functionality. Our wireframes also gave the whole application a more cohesive, uniform look. And we are grateful to Dr. Rachel Jones for her guidance and for the opportunity to work on such a meaningful project. And we're proud to hand off a hub that's ready for its next chapter.